All right, this is, Ollie, for your background, we call this the Multi-Organ Support Team meeting. It's been going on for about 10 years, hasn't it? Back when Jeff was running it, back when? Going on a long time. And we try and get a speaker every month to talk about something about transplant. And so first thing we'll do is we'll go around the room, give everybody a chance to tell you who they are, so you can relate to that. And with that, Roger?
Hi, I'm Bob Goodman, and I had a heart transplant 15 and a half months ago. I'm going skiing next week. I'm in training for the Broad Street month.
Very fantastic.
I'm Jim Goodchild. I have a vast story. I'm a heart transplant recipient October 21st, 2008. I am the husband of a living donor who donated her kidney November 8th, 2000 to my daughter. And I'm also the father of a son who donated a kidney May 18th of 2013 to my daughter too.
I'm Susan Pincus. I'm a kidney and pancreas transplant recipient. It'll be about 16 and a half years. I had been a type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic before my transplant.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Lisa Goldfinger. I'm a double lung recipient, December 10th, 2010, and doing very well.
Nice to meet you.
My name is Dave Demmelfinger. I'm Lisa's husband.
Nice to meet you.
My name is Chris Merritt. My brother's a living donor. He donated a kidney to my other brother who has passed.
Nice to meet you.
Howard Pritchard, I'm a living donor. Just 24 years this past March. And he lasted 10 years, but his heart gave out. The kidney was still good. He's a juvenile diabetic, 31 years. And I'm fine.
Nice to meet you. My name is Alison Steinhauser. It's nice to meet everybody. Thank you so much for having me. A little background about
Make
myself.
sure it's just going to give us the background. You got an amazing background.
A little background about myself. First of all, I guess we'll start with the non-medical part, and then we'll get into the medical and why I'm interested in this topic in particular. I was educated locally here in Philadelphia at the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. What's interesting particularly about that school is they offer a doctoral program in psychology that has a very strong relationship to its medical school. So the psychologists are trained in health psychology, which is a very small kind of niche field within psychology. And we work directly with a lot of the medical students and within the medical community. Why am I interested in, well, right now I work in private practice, so I work predominantly with families and individuals, and ranging from my youngest patient is 4 or 5, and my oldest patient is, in his 70s, and I really enjoy that and the flexibility and independence of that practice. So why am I interested in transplantation is because I am a heart recipient. I got my heart transplant. It was 10 years in 11/7/09 was my, or 11/6/04 was my transplant date. I got married 11/7/09. So I very often confuse those dates because there are codes on like a lot of things in my house. You shouldn't have said that, but my story begins when I was 17. I had a cardiac arrest in my high school. And prior to that, I was a pretty competitive athlete, a martial artist, competing nationally and internationally. And HCM, or hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, is the leading cause of sudden death in young athletes. And I kind of fit that bill very perfectly. And I went to school on a very normal day. The only thing that was abnormal about that morning was that I was very, very cranky. This is all a report from my parents. Very cranky, very upset. Didn't match, which for a 17-year-old girl that goes to high school not matching. And I was late, and I'm never really late to school or late anywhere other than screeching in on time today because of the weather. And I passed out right outside of the biology door. And luckily there were 2 trauma nurses rescheduled to be there that day to give a lecture to the senior class about drunk driving before the prom. They managed to keep me alive for about 20 minutes before the local cops came, who were able to use the defibrillator that was donated on Monday and it was Wednesday.
Wow.
So they used that. I had no oxygen for almost 4 minutes, they think, but lucky for me, my brain recovered, obviously enough for me to go on and get my doctorate, so I'm doing okay.
Just okay?
Just okay, a little better than okay, as opposed to my patient's aid. Life kind of went on as that. I went to Rutgers University, had to stay local, so I didn't have many options in terms of where I was going to go for my education. But luckily I got an amazing education there, local, close to home. I lived North Jersey, Rutgers proud.
Rutgers North.
So,
A couple of years before you.
just a few, just a few. Throughout my college education, in those 4.5 years, I had appropriate firings of my ICD, which was the defibrillator that's implanted into my abdomen. I thought I would still grow at that point, which I didn't. I was this size at 17, I'm this size at 35. But it appropriately fired several times, and I managed to graduate on time, close to home, and with several hospitalizations. My family relocated down to Philadelphia, and I had several more instances of cardiac arrest. And that's when we kind of realized that my heart was starting to fail, and I was in chronic end-stage heart failure, and that a transplant was in my future. So, 10 years ago, this past November, I got my transplant. And 5 years ago, this past November, I got married. And it'll be 3 years in May. I had identical twin boys. And in between there, I managed to go to school and be a person and continue on with my life and get my education and positively move forward. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is positively coping after transplant. Any questions? No.
I just have to say up front, I'm just so thrilled that you connected and we were able to bring you here today, because nobody has this kind of background, and you are such an inspiration, Ollie, your whole life, okay? But to have you here and record this and share this with the country as you're going on with your career, I can't say how inspiring you are.
I appreciate that. We met kind of early on in my transplant process, and luckily Jim's been kind of a big part of my development and coming to where I am today.
But it's been a long time since we've seen each other.
It's been a road. It's been a road.
If you want to sit down and do this, you're welcome to. It's
more of a
good, whatever you're comfortable.
Staying in this spot is going to be challenging, I'll tell you that. Okay, so why is coping important, really, is because in the transplant world, it's going to lead to a more successful outcome. It's going to lead to a more successful transplant and a more rewarding experience, and ultimately a healthier lifestyle. So we'll switch the slide now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to note that we are focusing on post-transplant. However, it's important to understand before we get started there that the transplant process is often discussed with all of these positive terms of survival and hope and change. It's about survival and looking forward towards a new life, a new start, hope for the future, new beginnings, a change towards the better, and a looking towards a brighter start. It's about overcoming obstacles and looking towards moving forward and increasing our quality of life from whatever point we were before we needed the transplant. Obviously, we didn't go into this transplant because everything was great, right? You go into any button or just
right.
Okay.
Right button.
You go into a transplant because something's not right. Your body is failing. Something's failing, right? So
Yeah.
something's failing big time for these people, right? For me, I was unconscious for 8 weeks, but really, really sick for years and years and years, unable to keep up with my peers. You know, I had to walk a mile to class every day. Well, that mile took me an hour. It took my friends about 8 minutes. It's a big difference. So getting through college was not only an academic chore, it was a physical chore. And that life, for anybody, is a challenge. So, but then this term comes where we're gonna get a transplant, and the doctors and support systems come in and say, well, your life's gonna be hopeful. There's gonna be a break, there's gonna be a change, or something's gonna be different. And your quality of life will get better. okay? But now there's a post-transplant time where there's this battle of expectation, right? And what we might expect to feel is relief, right? Relief that, the past is behind me. I did that. I didn't feel well for that time, and now I'm ready to feel better, okay? A time to move forward. You might feel that I'm supposed to feel really grateful now. Well, grateful that someone gave me something, or grateful to a spiritual, to God, to a higher being, whatever we want to call it. For the sake of the moving forward, we'll just refer to God or higher being, okay? But know that that relates to anything that you may believe. We might be expected to feel joyful because now we get to start over again. Now you get to do all those things you didn't get to do for so long. You might be expected to feel, or you may expect to feel, that this is a time of new hope, of the best is yet to come, right? You might expect that this is a time of just pure excitement. I can't wait to get out of here, because then all of the exciting things get to begin. But you might actually feel a little scared or a little fearful, like, wow, I didn't know that they were gonna, I remember right before I got to go home, well, actually I didn't get to go home that day because I rejected and had to stay an extra 2 weeks, but they let me pack first. Thank you, doctors. I got the speech of, here's the list of everything you now can never do again. Speech. Well, thank you for saving it for after the fact. Not that I would have not chosen to do this as if I had a choice, but I didn't have any time to understand, okay? So we might feel fearful or scared about what our life is now gonna look like. What can I not do? Or what is this gonna hold me back from? Do I have any things that are overwhelming to me now? I'm confused about the process. I'm confused about, I came home, most of you probably came home with a bag full of pills. A bag, a tote, not a little Ziploc, a tote filled up with pills. And we had to it took me and my dad an hour and a half to put them in the right boxes. And I had to do that again next week? Really? And now it takes me about 6 or 7 minutes. And you move right along because I memorized it. But at the time, I could not believe that this was gonna be an hour and a half of my week. And then God forbid you get it wrong. Well, can I survive that? You can't get this wrong. This is a life and death matter. You might feel sadness. Well, sadness might come in a lot of different ways. We'll group sadness and grief together for the sake of time, because I can talk about this for a long time.
I'll repeat for me again. What age were you when you,
24.
that you're talking at now, getting the transplant?
24.
Okay.
Sadness and grief we'll put together. You might feel sadness of what you missed out on. What you may have missed out on seeing children grow up, or going to parties, going to birthday parties, being able to hold your loved ones, being able to pick up those kids. You may have missed out on going on vacations. You may have missed out on things. You may feel sadness for the caregivers that gave up so much for you, or still have to give up for you because you still have to go to weekly appointments or keep up on all this care. You might feel some sadness for the donor family on what they have lost and what they're giving up and their repeated losses each year, while you celebrate, someone else is not. And that's something that you don't forget about year after year after year. And there might be some frustration. I didn't expect this, and no one told me this was coming. Everyone told me this was going to be a life changer, but I didn't think that all of these other feelings were coming too. So when our expectations don't meet our reality, that's when a crisis occurs. And that's when our mind starts to play games with us, and we start to feel really confused. We can feel unhappy, we can get anxious, we can get angry, we can feel unsettled, okay? We see these as two separate circles. But what we need to do is put them together. We need to expect the reality that we're going to have all of these feelings at once. Because we're people, we're human, and it's okay to feel relieved and sad. It's okay to feel relieved that I'm okay and grieve the loss of your own organ and grieve the loss of somebody that lost their loved one. It's okay to feel hopeful for yourself and sad about what you missed out on. It's okay to understand that all these feelings are flexible they're not stuck in time, they're fleeting, they're momentary, and they don't have to be long-lasting, and you don't have to stay stuck in any one of them at any particular point in time. But then the question is, well, sometimes I feel stuck in them, and how do I get out of it? Good?
Good.
I tend to talk fast, so if I am talking fast,
You're doing just fine.
slow me down. So, I'm a psychologist. I love talking about how the brain works. More importantly, why do we do the things that we do? So, I can spend 5 days talking about this, but for the sake of time and my audience, we'll spend 5 minutes, okay? This is the psychology of us, okay? We all have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, okay? Things that we think about, feelings that we have and express and kind of live with, and then behaviors are things that we do, okay? Let's keep with something that's kind of benign and doesn't matter. So we might have a thought like, I came here today to learn something, to absorb something. I don't even know what. It's kind of a neutral thought, very neutral thought. Well, the feeling is, you might feel excited, you might feel involved in a community, right? These are all kind of neutrally feelings. Not too high, not too low. You might feel encouraged to do or be a part of something. And the behavior that you're all doing, as I'm looking around the room, is you're all engaged. You're interested, you're looking, you're thinking, right? You're attending to your surroundings. That's what you're doing. So your thoughts are inside your brain. It's the things you can kind of put quote marks around, like in comic book strips. If you can put a quote mark around it, it's a thought. And sometimes they come in and out like that. It's very hard to grab them. Okay, but if you can put a little quote around it, it's a thought. If it's a feeling, if it kind of makes you go like something in your tummy and it makes you, that's a feeling. Okay, a behavior is something you're actually doing. You're looking at me and really attending and really thinking and really focusing and thinking back into your own memories of when I thought and experienced these experiences, for lack of a better sentence. Okay, so that is how our psychology works. We all have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. When we start to tweak any one of these, what's so cool about humans, okay, is that I can flick this one or flick that one as a psychologist and send the whole thing on a tailspin. So if you don't like how you're thinking, feeling, or behaving, all you have to do is tweak any one of them. And then they all start rotating differently. So let's take a little bit of a closer look. Let's look at a negative cycle. Okay? Typical negative post-transplant cycle. You know, a thought might be, I really thought this would be easier. It's really not a terrible thought, but it's definitely on the negative side. I really thought this would be easier. And what might your feelings be? And if you have feelings to add to this, throw them out. But when I wrote this sentence, the first thing that came into my gut, right, those feelings are like those gutsy, mushy things. First thing that came into my gut was, that thought made me feel sad. It made me feel discouraged. I didn't know what to do. It made me feel discouraged. Like, what do I do with this? And it made me feel a little hopeless, because this is not what I expected, okay? And someone who has that thought really thought my life would be easier now. Behaviorally, what they're doing, what I'm seeing, might isolate, they might withdraw, they might stop taking such good care of themselves. They might postpone a blood draw, they might cancel a lunch date, they might not go to work, they might not do those exercises that the doctor prescribed, they might not call their family members to check in. And then what happens?
Isn't all that the same as when you're ill? Even if you don't have a transplant, it's just, my sister's like that, she's ill, it's the same thing.
This thought can be, I'll never find a job. And then, this person's not looking for a job. And then the feeling goes, I'm hopeless, it's never gonna happen, right? It could be, this cycle could be about any topic, anywhere, for any person around the world. That's why it's awesome. But the cooler part is, again, you flick it somewhere, you make that attempt, you try to change something anywhere, wherever you're comfortable, and everyone's comfortable changing in different places, and we'll get there. We'll get there. and things start to change. You have to start changing the spin. For the sake of talking, let's look at a positive cycle. Same person, you know, this is gonna get better, I just need to give it a little time. Okay, now that person, let's look at their behaviors first, because again, we can go in any direction. Seeking support, they may have just came from a really good family party, or really good, really good coffee date with a mentor. And they left thinking, you know what, this is gonna get better. I just gotta give it a little bit more time. I need to let my body settle into this. I need to let my doctors understand me better. I need to give myself a chance. Well, this person's feeling hopeful, excited, settled, calmer, right? And then their thoughts start to change. You know, maybe I will try that out. Maybe I will do this. And then the cycle starts to rotate and become more positive, and you'll start to see significant behavioral changes. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. So that's how the brain works. This is how psychology works. Okay, this is how we change the way this is how we operate as thoughts, feelings, behaviors. We're all just a bunch of little triangles walking around the world. Thoughts, feelings, behaviors, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, thoughts, feelings, behaviors. Okay? It's what we do, what we think, and how we feel about it. So then the question becomes, we're here because we're talking about positive coping, and why is coping so important, right? Well, coping is important because it helps us better manage our stress, right? It helps us better manage all the stressors in our lives and has us be able to focus where they are. I say that I work a lot with kids sometimes, and kids love visuals, and adults love visuals too. So I would say if you're going to like a huge buffet, okay, I'm gonna send you to a huge buffet, all of you, and I'm gonna give you two options of plates. I'm gonna give you you know those like useless little plates that come with the mugs? I don't even take them out of the box, I don't know what they're for.
Sausage.
There's no room in my kitchen for sausage. I don't know why people have these. But the little plates that come in the mugs, I can give you each one of those to eat dinner on, or I can give you a serving platter. This is an all-you-can-eat buffet. But you can only go at once. Which plate would you prefer? No-brainer, the serving platter, right? So coping is your ability to spread out all of your stuff. We all have stuff. We're not getting rid of the stuff. We all have health issues. Some of us everybody here means that we all have someone or us ourselves knows a severe health issue in our past or present. But everyone in the world has something on their plate in terms of health. We all have something on our plate in terms of work or finances. We all have something we have to pay. We all have someone that we're worrying about. We all have the weather that everyone's always freaking out about in the winter. Right? We always have something to complain about. We have some family issue going on. There's no perfect family. Those are all issues. That's everything on the buffet, and everyone wants to grab something or has to grab something. And we can smush it on a tiny little plate and have no coping and no ability to see it or work with it, or we can put it on a nice big platter and actually see what's there and manage it. Okay? And coping gives us the ability to manage our issues because we're not getting rid of them. Okay? And then once you can see them, you can start working on them, and bit by bit reduce them and manage them. Okay? So why is it so important? It leads to a more fulfilling life. Once you're able to see what's on your plate, once you're able to focus on what's on your plate, you can lead a more fulfilling, more successful life. You can overcome obstacles. You can manage your conflict. You can manage your stress. You can manage relationships. All of that becomes easier. Okay? It's also important to understand that, yes, there's positive and negative coping. You've all heard these are very typical pop culture terms. Today we're going to focus on positive coping. But examples of negative coping?
Drinking. Drinking.
Drinking.
Yeah. Drinking, drugs, coming home, eating. You know, I couldn't take today, I'm gonna eat the entire thing of brownies. Isolating, saying I'm turning away from the world. The world can go here, I'm gonna stay here. You do that, just leave me alone. That's negative coping. Positive coping improves your outcome. let's talk transplant since we're here. It improves your medical outcome. It helps you be healthier. It gives you healthier relationships with your family, with your friends, and with your medical team. Very important. You always want to be good friends with your medical team. They're taking care of you. Negative coping impedes that process. It's the harmful behaviors gets in the way of your leading a quality-filled life and can hurt relationships and hurt progress. Any questions up until now? I'm trying to fly through it because I don't want to leave questions.
Doing good, your
Yeah.
pace is just right.
Okay. Good? Okay. So let's look at what positive coping would look like. Well, let's go back for 1 second, because positive coping, why I put the triangle person back in here, is because what positive coping does is lets us, we can flick this with alcohol, but what happens? It just goes into a negative spin, right? Or we can flip this with something positive and think about more positive behaviors and think about more positive outcomes. So the coping is now going to be almost transposed on top of it, okay? And going to improve your ability to function because it impacts your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, depending upon where you want to go. Like I said, I can flick you here, I can impact you here, or I can impact you here. As a psychologist, I can pick whichever one I want. I'm going to pick based on what I think is best for you, because I'm getting to know you. As an individual, you're doing this on your own, you need to know you and say, I think I'm going to start here, I think I'm going to start there, okay? So I'm going to give you some options. Let's take a look at some options. Again, this is kind of a, positive coping 101. So it's a very, kind of very overview, but it's a good start, okay? Positive coping, I like to start with a really good routine, okay? It's really important to start your day, especially if you're feeling down, or if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling like you're already not in the best of places. Just the first thing I go back to is starting a routine, because it's really a really good and very important thing to start your day the same way every single day. Sometimes the simplest of activities, like taking a shower, is the first to go, or they are lost later on. But that activity has been proven, just taking a shower has been proven. There are studies and studies and studies, but if you rank mood before and you rank mood after, and that person doesn't even leave the house the rest of the day, their mood improved. Well, that's an easy one. And it's good for you, and it's good for everybody around you too. But it's a good set to your routine, okay? You want to structure your time. You want to divide your day into blocks. For people who are really struggling, I divide their day into hours. For people who are struggling less, you can divide it into AM, PM, 3 blocks, kind of the morning, the noonish, lunchish time, and the dinner and PM time, and set some structure to it. The morning time, I'm going to focus on getting myself ready, preparing for the day, cleaning up. The noon time, I'm going to head out and get some things done. The afternoon time, I'm going to prepare my meals, catch up with some people, reach out to people, and get ready for bed. Whatever your routine is. This is where you want to implement checklists, to-do lists. Literally checking off, scratching off. Sometimes I'll put things on, I'll get to, that I've already done. If I'm very anxious in a day, and I already made my bed, brushed my teeth, and took a shower, but I don't know what I'm doing with my day, I will write a list that starts with make my bed, brush my teeth, and take a shower, and then I'll add things to it, just so I can cross those 3 things off. Why? I did something. Go me. Question?
But how does that work when everything's always coming at you? You don't have any control.
Well, the thing is, the routine helps you gain control. The routine will help you gain control. Because you're gonna articulate, you're gonna put into stone times that are specific for you. But I take a shower between now and, between this time and that time, and if the phone rings or someone's pulling on me, it's too bad. Which brings me to, we can jump a little bit, to boundaries and learning to say no. That it's okay to reduce your load and not take on everything and everybody. It doesn't necessarily mean it's permanent, although some may argue, that you can forever say no. My mom always says, no is a complete sentence. It's true, if you read a book. No, period. No, period. No is a complete sentence. I'm definitely not an English teacher, but no is a complete sentence. And you do not have to justify it. And setting boundaries on yourself and on your relationships is often a first step that will help you on 2 slides back, which will be about communication and working with people. But in routine and self-care is setting aside time for yourself. Whether it's a time for relaxation, which could be as simple as, it's my time to read my book, my time to listen to music, my time to mess around on the internet, or to pray, to meditate, to do yoga, to practice my breathing, to journal. Again, listening, learning to say no, setting boundaries around what's important to you in your relationships and at home. No, this is my time to do this. My appointments can't start until this time or that time. Exercise and diet. Again, because of this audience, you have to make sure everything's okay with doctors and nurses and everything, but starting with some exercise, even if it's as little as getting your mail or walking to the end of the street and back. If you give yourself the goal of, today I'm just gonna walk and to the mailbox and back, I promise you, 9 times out of 10, you will go a little further. Just a little bit. In the same way that I say, you go to a supermarket and I say, I don't want you to run in for anything else. Just go get the milk that you need. I know you need eggs and I know you need other things, but I'm just sending you in for the milk. I also promise you, you will get 5 other things that you need. Because once you start to do something, your body continues to do that thing. That's called behavioral activation. Once you do something, you just naturally do more of that thing. You could do it positively or negatively. Once you lay in bed, you kind of just hang out there and do nothing. Okay. Sleep. Huge. If you're not getting good sleep, you need to work on that. There's something called sleep hygiene. Just like hygiene in life, like having good hygiene. Brush, brush, brush. I have 2-year-olds. So we sing songs about brushing teeth in my house and ridiculous songs, but what am I teaching them? I'm teaching them how to have good habits. Hygiene is just habits. And having good sleep habits is equally as important. And if we need to talk at the end about sleep habits, I'll do that. But I won't waste that time now unless it's necessary. Humor. So important. Finding something. If you're not funny yourself, you all have a friend who's funny. Spend time with that person. Watch funny movies. Humor lightens up your day. And it's important and it's a really great way to cope with difficult times because we all need to laugh more. And it is really a beneficial way to lighten your mood. And again, it's enough just to start that, just to click that cycle off, moving in a different direction for a few hours, and that can change your day. Okay? Problem solving. This is also a difficult one, and this takes some practice and some learning and some skill. There's books, there's people you can talk to about it. Problem solving is a skill, and it's a skill you can learn at any point in your life. Being a better problem solver helps you manage what's your issues or your challenges or your obstacles better so that you spend less time on them, you're focused more on them, you get the issue handled faster and more efficiently, right? It's like on a computer. You can do something in 14 clicks or you can do them in 2. Well, I'm gonna work faster and better and get my work done in 1/14 of the time if I can be a better problem solver. Okay? It's important to not default to the negative and just be like, I can't do this, or it's just not for me, and just push it to other people to solve for you. Ownership is an important part of this process as well. Now, people will often say, well, it's all in my head, it's all in my head. Well, yeah, okay, let's talk about thoughts. And there's ways to positively change your thoughts and challenge that negative self-talk. By the way, if you feel like you're always talking to yourself, or someone's always talking to you, that's okay, you're not crazy. We always have this internal banter with ourselves. That's your self-talk. If you're hearing voices from outside your head, that's a different conversation. We can talk privately. If it's all in here, good. That's called metacognition. That's the thoughts we're having about our thoughts. That's what should I do next? Should I do the dishes? Or should I fold the laundry before I get dressed for work? And then I should go, but I should call so-and-so. That's our self-talk. That's good. That's really good. Our self-talk gets us through our day. It helps us. It's our little secretary in the front of our heads. Okay? But sometimes our self-talk can really get the best out of you and can send you on a really vicious, vicious cycle. So what you want to do is start to identify those depressive or negative or anxious thoughts. Again, getting so ahead of myself. Okay. You want to, when you feel them coming, when you're experiencing them, you want to say, okay, this is a negative thought. This is making me uncomfortable. So the first step is just identifying them. 2, recognizing how these thoughts are impacting your thoughts and feelings. This does come with a lot of practice. I'm not expecting this to happen overnight. This takes people time and weeks and months to learn how to do with help. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It's good. It's doable. And there's books and resources that I can offer also to help you. But recognizing that, oh, I'm really having this negative thought that, you know, my life's not getting better and I don't want to do this anymore. And then say, yeah, I realized I'm feeling really sad. I'm feeling really hopeless. And I haven't gotten out of bed and it's 11:30. You just recognize your circle. You just recognize your cycle and realize that you're in a negative spin and you need to work on it. Good work. You just did really good work. That's the
So
first.
I shouldn't sleep till 11:30?
What's that?
I shouldn't sleep till 11:30?
Well, if you're going to bed at 2, then that's great.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Gotta get 8 hours in
As
there.
long as we're okay on it.
You're being positive, you always say you got 13 more hours a day.
We can talk about sleep hygiene and go back to how many hours we should be sleeping. And then another thing you can do with negative self-talk is challenging your depressive thoughts and changing them with something more realistic. This is never going to get better. Never? I should be doing more. Should? Should. We'll get there. Should is a nasty word. Should is a bad word. I'm going to put that on one of my 4-letter words in my house. I'm adding should to the list. Because should is a really mean word to put on yourself. It's a derogatory term to yourself. I should. Should what? And we'll get there. Continue practicing in thought and challenging those thoughts and implementing some sort of behavioral change. We often start with the behaviors because behaviors are something that you can do. Thoughts can be a challenge. You can't see them. You can't see them. So how do I know if I'm always having them? And sometimes it's even hard to pull them out. Sometimes I can spend weeks talking to someone and we're just working on how to put them in the quotes, how to pull them out of your head, because sometimes they go so fast. A lot of us have thoughts that are on fast forward, that aren't just on play. And that's not an uncommon thing. Sometimes our thoughts are on fast forward. And when our thoughts are on fast forward, they're even harder to pull out. Again, that's okay. But then we work on the behaviors, because behaviors, I'm marching now. You can see that, right? I'm laying in bed now. I can see that. You can change those much more tangibly than you can a thought that's running out of control. And 5th, you want to start to identify themes in your negative thoughts. What are these themes? Chose not to put a slide on that because that's like a 2-hour conversation or an entirely different talk. But I'm going to talk to you about them. One of those themes is called, let me go down to should first, would be the shoulds. Okay? For example, I should really be exercising. My doctor told me I should. It starts to really beat on you. I should. Man, you're just beating yourself up. I should be a better this. Should be a better wife. Should be a better. You're just beating yourself up. I should be doing work. I should have cleaned up. It's just derogatory towards yourself. Instead, you can do, I decided not to exercise right now, but I can decide to exercise later. It's a decision. It's not a whim. Don't beat yourself up. Okay, another example is catastrophizing. People catastrophize all. This winter was the winter of catastrophizing. How many blizzards were we supposed to have? How many did we have? We had like 7 inches of snow. That's not a blizzard. I mean, I grew up around here, and I know that's not a blizzard. I have nothing to compare it to, but I know it's not a blizzard. That's an example of catastrophizing, okay? My blood pressure is out of control. I must be rejecting, I'm going to die. What? Did you just come down the stairs? Because you just came down the stairs. Why don't we instead sit down 20 minutes later, take your blood pressure again? It's still a little bit high? Okay. Let's call the doctor. Let's not catastrophize and jump to the end and final place. Or so-and-so is angry with me. We're never going to talk again. Catastrophizing. Emotional reasoning is if you're experiencing something emotionally, then it must be true. If the emotion is there, if I'm feeling scared, there must be something to be scared of. Okay? Again, psychology is so cool because there's been, international studies, done over decades, because there's, longitudinal studies. And what they've realized is that humans it comes down to 10 themes. Just 10. So all of this depressive and anxiety-ridden, self-beating up, horrific thoughts that we all experience, me included, because I'm human too, right? That we all experience on a daily basis or a weekly basis, depending on who we are, all come down to just 10 themes. That's it. So once we learn how to challenge those 10 themes, life gets to be a little bit more manageable. Okay? To move on in positive coping, this is a time of when we need support. When you're down is when you need the most support. Think about it. You fall down, you need help getting up. Yes. And a kid falls down, you pick them up. You don't expect a kid to get up on them. You go, you rush, you pick them up. We all need someone to help us get up. Now, that's literal, but figuratively, it would be very nice to have the support of family and friends, of religious leaders, of your community, of mentors, of anybody, teachers, doctors, of support network to help you. It's important to reach out to these people. Tell them when you need help. Help others. Give back. That increases your mood. Okay? Learning to improve your communication skills. We're not born learning how to be the best communicators. Okay? Best example, kids scream at you when they want something. Scream at you. They yell at you when they don't like what they want. We're not born learning how to get what we want. In fact, we're really bad at it. They're actually really good at it because they get the job done well, but they really piss off everyone around them. And as adults, we don't want to do that. We want to learn how to effectively communicate with everyone around us so that we can live more in harmony and get the support that we need. And also to recognize when to get additional help. When am I unable to manage this on my own anymore? I tried. I used all the skills I learned. I read a couple books. I reached out and I talked to my religious leaders and I talked to my community leaders and I talked to my family and I talked to everybody. And I'm not getting any better and I'm getting scared. And I'm thinking really scary thoughts about hurting myself, or I'm thinking scary thoughts that I don't want to do this anymore, or I'm thinking that I can't go to work anymore, and I'm staying away from my family and my friends, and I'm pushing everyone away, and I'm getting nervous about it. It just doesn't feel right. Or maybe someone else is recognizing that you're not in a good place, and I don't like what I'm seeing. Well, then maybe it's time to get some help from the outside. This is a time you want to listen to your family and friends because they're the ones that take care of you and love you and want the best for you. Going a little long, I think. So how do you improve your coping skills? Am I okay with time?
You're fine.
Okay.
There's no time limit.
So the first thing you want to do, okay, this is like kind of a wrap up, but it's important to put all the pieces together, is the first thing you have to do is identify your triggers and your stressors, right? First you want to go up to that buffet and decide what you want to have, right? What's going to go on that plate. You need to know what you're dealing with. You need to identify, how do I currently deal with the stress? What am I doing right now to manage all the things on that plate? Am I doing it well? Rating your level of effectiveness. Am I doing it okay? Can I do a little better? Are there some areas that, I'm doing really well with my family, but I need to communicate my needs with my doctor better because I don't think they're hearing me right. But I'm really taking really good care of myself, so I'm proud. Well, that's good. Well, you have very little tweaking to do. Or maybe you're on the other end of the spectrum and you need a little bit more work in support. It helps often to look how other people cope, to see how they're doing. How are they managing? What's their skills? What are their tools? There's no reason. This is not cheating. This is good. Look at how other people in your network are doing managing their stuff. Okay, get some pointers. Learn about coping. There's a lot of resources out there. You came here, you learned about coping. Now start to implement those things. Choose things. Choose what from that list that we offered today that kind of encompasses most of the things that you'll see out there in the world. What do you want to try? Pick one. Don't pick 5. Pick one place to start. Start there. Give that a whirl. If it works, great, then add to it. If it doesn't work, scratch it. Forget about it. Don't look back and start something new. Okay? So you're adopting the new skill and you're testing it out. Almost like a scientist. Try it, test it, evaluate it. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Garbage? Keep. Okay. And then get additional help when necessary. Okay? And that's it. Questions, comments? Yes.
I am, like I said, I'm a transplant. I also have a lot of issues family-wise with different members of my family with health conditions, and I help them out as much as I can. And one of my doctors recommended that I see a therapist, which I have been doing for the last couple of years. And her one recommendation to me is that, of all things, plan one thing, just one thing every day. Plan to do something specific every day. It doesn't matter what it is. If, like you said, I go to the mailbox, or if I just get in my car and I drive around the block. But to do one thing every day just to get out of my house. And that has helped me tremendously.
Yeah. I think that's a great recommendation, and again, it's about setting that routine and setting that expectation that you're getting out, you're doing something, you're successful in completing something every day.
It was interesting the way you started out with some of the concerns of what they led you to expect. And of course, we're very different ages, of course. But I can still remember a social worker back when we were just making the decision to go for transplant. Okay? And she said, Mr. Gleason, this is not a black and white decision. We don't know what your quality of life is going to be. So they do try to give us some of that. I'm sure it depends on the individual you're dealing with, how clear they make that. But I think we miss a lot of the communication because we're so engaged in all of the issues at that moment in time in terms of our health and all the points you just made up there, fear, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you ever recorded it, went back, oh, they did mention that, didn't they? But that, and my own reaction to that, being a very positive person, was, it's going to be good, and it has been, but.
I think what's interesting is that, so I've been a recipient for 10 and change years, but a heart patient, now I'm labeling, that's one of the 10 cognitive distortions, for almost 10 years before that, my mom will say, you saw every ologist there was to see in all of the hospital visits from, all that time, right? We're talking like a lot of years, right? And never anyone to talk to me about how I felt about things. I started off in pediatrics, so there were people talking to my parents about how they were doing with having a sick child, but never anyone to talk to me. I went as far as a dentist came to talk about my wisdom teeth before transplant, but no one asked me how I was feeling. So I feel like this is such an important topic, because to ignore the emotions and to ignore those psychosocial issues surrounding this enormous life change it's important, and even if you're doing it after the fact, it's not any less important. It doesn't matter when you're doing this, it's just important that it's being talked about and being addressed, irrelevant of the time.
I think like what Jim's saying is being a positive person definitely helps. Like, I was planning for this. Like, every day I'm not facing the root's a good day to me, and it's always has been. because since my daughter's been 3 weeks old, we know what it's been like. She's 22 now. So when I took my first heart attack right after a transplant, okay, well, I knew my life was changing, but we look at things in a positive way. And just everything you're saying, I have seen the negative side and the people that we are trying to mentor. I'm not that negative person. I don't have the negative thoughts. They ask me every day how I was doing in the hospital, and I was always about, you know, this is another day in paradise. My insurance is paying me to be in a 5-star hotel room, and I'm able to look out that window. And there were a few people that were really down while they were in the hospital, and I tell them, just pick one thing. Pick one thing in your life that you got to look forward to. And for me, it was a few things. My son was getting married. My daughter was graduating high school. My son was graduating high school. So these were all little things that I looked forward to at that time. So each day became easier. And as for the medication, I understand what you're saying. I went home the first night, and this is one thing that they don't teach in the hospital. They don't tell you you're going to get the shakes. They don't tell you all these side effects you're going to have from the medication, that your eyes feel like they're going to pop out of your head because of the prednisone. They don't tell you that.
Yeah,
These are all things that you get on your own.
Yeah, but Jim, you had an advantage.
Oh, absolutely.
You were raised as a child with the name Good Child.
Yeah, but
I mean, you know.
yeah.
You make such a
I'm
good
kidding.
point though in that you focus on pick one good thing, one thing you're looking forward to, and you made a very similar point. One thing a day. This is not about revolutionary changes to your life. This is about changing, remember I said just flick one thing. One tiny little change in your thought or in one little change in your behavior can switch someone upside down where they can just recognize, oh, this can be okay. And that can set the path for a more global change in time. Not everyone's as positive as you are. I tend to be on the positive side, so I'm always happy. But not everyone is like that. So it's very challenging for those individuals to see, well, you know, how can I be happy about a wedding that I might not get to, right?
Oh, I was doing the worm it that way.
Right.
And I told myself, yeah, I'm going to my son's wedding, I'm going to do the
No
worm.
matter what.
And no matter what, I was going to be at that wedding. And I went to the wedding and I did the worm, like I said I was going to do.
That's awesome.
And one of the things, like when I talk to the patients in the hospital, I said, I'm not going to tell you you're not going to have bad days. The object is to make your good days better than your bad.
And that's about expecting the reality of it.
And that's the reality, because I'm not going to tell you I didn't have a bad day. When that lady walked in the room and said, well, we're going to put an LVAD in you. Okay, we're doing it Tuesday. Okay, I can't get a hold of my wife. Yeah, the one nurse knew there was a problem. She came in and sat down with me. They changed the date on me. They moved it up a week. And, okay. And it takes, and like that was a bad day for me in the hospital. But the next day was a better day. So, Jim,
recognizing that it's not a fixed thing.
no, it's not.
Flexible.
It wasn't. It's a negative, but you have to turn it into a positive.
And it'll change.
You have to change it. Like you said, your feelings and thoughts. One little thing can make it change it.
Let me interrupt just 1 second. Art, you came in late. Why don't you introduce yourself as we all did up front? Who are you and why are you here?
Hi, everybody. Excuse me. My name is Art Leakoff. I'm a heart and kidney transplant recipient, 11 years out.
Okay.
Nice to meet everybody.
Ollie, given what you've described, I mean, I think that you and I identify with a natural, optimistic outlook. Okay, we see things as they are, but we choose to see the positive side of it. There are people who are equally natural at seeing the negative side. Okay, and I think a lot of the coping skills you've talked about here can be applied. I think it's much easier if you're an optimist. I mean, oh yeah, I can do that.
Absolutely.
The pessimist can give you 10 reasons why they can't. And so they've got a bigger hill to climb. Is there any secrets for those people who aren't natural Ollies?
Yes. So my secrets for those natural kind of pessimists is I give them much smaller starts. So like I said, you know what, let's try something. Do you think you can just walk to the mailbox? Can you just walk to the mailbox? I don't want you to go any further. I know you might think you can go to the corner, I'm sure your legs are strong enough. You also have to know your person ahead of time and know what they're capable of doing. So this is after getting to know them. And you have to know that they're capable of doing a lot more than you're gonna offer. I know you're capable of walking to the end of the block, probably 2 or 3, but I don't want you to do that. So what you're doing is limiting what they're doing, taking it away from them, and basically having them prove you wrong. Because they really want you to be wrong.
Yeah, in a positive way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
beat
to
you.
make them, fine,
Yeah.
I'll be wrong.
I beat the limit.
Make me wrong, right? It's a little bit of a reverse spin on things, but if they're going to be, the goal is for them to have a positive outcome. And if they want to do it in their way, great. And if they need to prove you wrong, I'm okay with that. Prove me wrong. Tell me that I'm wrong, that you made it beyond the mailbox. Fantastic. Yeah.
Changing subjects, a little bit about the sleep hygiene.
Okay. So there is basics to sleep hygiene. A lot of people suffer with a lot of sleep problems, and it's more common than you would imagine. Actually, it's one of the first things that a lot of people come in with their complaint, regardless of what brings them in to talk to me, whether it's school trouble or parent trouble or anything. You really start to learn that people are struggling with their sleep. So generally, you should sleep between 7 to 9 hours a night. As you get older, that number is going to go down, so expect that. So if you're expecting 8 hours of sleep and you're 60 plus, then don't expect you're going to be closer to 7, maybe under. That's okay. That's okay. Younger, you're going to be on the top end of that. Children sleep 12, 13 hours a night. School-age elementary kids, if you have any kids or grandkids, should still be sleeping close to 12 hours a night. Kindergarten, 12 hours a night. You realize that means they're coming from school, eating, and going to sleep. That's what's best for them, even though they won't like it. Having a routine, a sleep routine, every single night being the same, okay? Whatever it is that your thing will be, whether it's listening to music, reading a newspaper, and taking a shower. Whatever it is, that routine has to look the same every night. We kind of mirror it to putting a baby to bed. You don't change the routine every night. Okay, baby, tonight we're going to try rock and roll and dancing before bed. And tomorrow night we're going to try reading a book and swaying. And then the next, you don't change the routine. Every night is the exact routine, every single night, without fail. My 2-year-olds march, they literally march, which is very cute, from the dinner table to their room, and they go through they can run the routine. They have slept 12 hours a night since they were 10 and a half weeks old, in the same room. Why? Because it's the exact same. If they try to add to the routine, which they're very sneaky, and they do, adults are sneaky too, you'll try to change it on yourself. Don't do that. Don't add to the routine, don't subtract the routine. Keep the same jazz music, reading a book, something boring, not something fun. Take a hot bath or shower. No caffeine past 3 o'clock. Caffeine is in chocolate and in tea, don't forget that. Exercise in the morning part of the day before 1, 2 o'clock if you can. I know work schedules impede that often. I'm going to go fast speed now. Bed. Bed is used for 2 things. Sleep and sex, that's it. Don't read in bed, don't study in bed, don't eat in bed, don't read magazines in bed, don't play games in bed, don't surf the internet in bed. The bed is for 2 things, that's it. I don't put my kid's favorite toy in bed. Why? They're just going to play with it. Right? The bed is for sleeping. That's it. Room should be cold, not warm and cozy. Like a bear's den. Bears sleep cold and dark. As dark as you can make it. TVs now come with these vicious, vicious green lights. Okay? I have sticky tabs on top of all the green lights in my room. All of them. My room looks ridiculous. I don't care. Sticky tabs on every green light in the room. Turn over your iPhone, put it down. It should be, again, cold. I know it's nice, warm, and cozy. You wear light clothes. Don't wear heavy clothes. It's not the time for sweatsuits. You want to be chilly. Go ahead.
That's what the conventional wisdom is. I read that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I have slept with a TV on since I was an infant. If I'm staying at somebody's house and there's no TV in the room,
You can't sleep.
I don't.
Do you have like veneers or
I-
anything in your, okay, try white ones.
No, but I sleep.
Okay,
I
well, then
sleep,
you-
but
you
I
don't have to
sleep
sleep
with, I sleep with the, my habit is the TV's on.
Right.
Lights are on. I was staying at somebody's house last fall in the woods, no neighbors, it was dark. I went and turned the light on in the closet and cracked the closet door open. So I don't understand, and then I slept fine. So I always have an issue when the medical profession
Well, it's
says,
kind of like
you
some
want
people-
darkness, you want quiet.
I think it's, well, you can say the medical profession is, you have an issue with the medical profession when they say that. Some people, A, you don't have a problem with sleep, so you don't really fit into the category, which is great. I think.
Well, no,
probably-
if it's dark and there's no noise, I do have a problem.
Right, but in your habit, you don't have a problem, so there's no issue. There's some people who caffeine puts them to sleep. There's some people who Benadryl gets them revved up. There's exceptions to every rule. But for your sleep hygiene is loud
Turn
and
the
light.
lights on and turn the
And
TV.
We always knew you were
Soft,
exceptional.
Softly,
Yeah,
but
which
on.
is fantastic because it works for you. If you're having, this is for people who have problems sleeping, what are the first things that you do? And this is the list of their
So
things.
if you
to
have a
do.
problem, but you don't.
If you don't have a problem,
I don't, it's.
yes, if you don't have a
Light.
problem,
Don't do this.
keep it going.
So we have the conflict where he likes the dark and the absolute quiet, and I like the TV on. So, yeah, so there's, yeah.
Plug up your ears and put it
But
in.
and I like music shows. I like PBS plays all the music shows. I can't put
Turn
them.
them
I
on
can't
clock.
put them on. I can't put them on the TV at
At
night.
least we wait on it.
Yeah.
I can have a regular show on, and it's not as bad.
And I can shut that, or just shut that out, that doesn't bother me. But music shows like alarm clock.
It's definitely a conflict.
The coldness is because your body naturally creates heat.
Right.
I see my wife's the opposite. She has to be hot. I have to be cold.
That's the majority of sleep hygiene. Setting the, if you have problems falling asleep, setting an exact time to wake up every day. It seems counterintuitive because, oh, I didn't sleep well, so I should sleep more. Don't lose the sleep for a few days, and then what'll happen is you'll start to go to sleep a little bit earlier each night, and you'll start to, basically, your clock is gonna be that 7 hours, let's say, regardless. So you just wanna start clicking it backwards to the more appropriate time, which would be, you sleep when it's dark, you're up when it's light. I know there's exceptions like Alaska and some other cold areas of the world that I'm not ever gonna go to. But in general, you wanna kind of click click your clock back to the normal waking and sleep-wake hours. But you have to be willing to shave it off in the morning and be tired for a couple days. No napping, ever, for people who struggle with sleep at night. If you don't struggle with sleep at night, nap away. Great, I envy you. I can't nap. I wish I could. I'm a cranky napper. I don't nap. Go ahead.
On the same note, I had my doctor visits today, and we were discussing this particular problem. I am up at least 4 times a night in the bathroom. And he told me that is a very common problem with transplant patients.
Yeah.
So what do you do about that? I mean, you
Today,
you have to get up and use the
Yeah.
bathroom. So that interrupts your sleep flow.
Yeah.
You know, so you still don't take naps, or?
So are you able to fall back asleep?
It'll take me a little bit, but yeah, I can go
How
back to
long?
sleep. It can probably take me 20 minutes, half an hour.
Okay, so 20 minutes isn't bad. I would say what you want to do is probably add up all of your sleep. If you're getting 7 hours or so, you're getting enough sleep.
I don't work, so I will sleep in. That's why I said when I
So
laughed
then,
when you said
yeah.
11:30.
If it works for your
Because I'm up,
schedule, and
yeah.
if you're getting if you're adding up your hours, a lot of people say, I'm not sleeping. And my first thing is to assess your actual sleep. And when you actually count up your hours, you're getting a lot of sleep. You're getting plenty of sleep. You just feel like it's broken up. And it might be because, as we get older, you have to pee, you have to pee.
It was reassuring to hear that other transplant, it was a common thread that they hear that other transplant patients get up a lot in the middle of the night for
Right,
that.
it's one of those things.
Yeah,
That it changes the circadian
rhythm.
rhythm or just for whatever reason,
Right.
so.
I can tell you now, the main reason why I came tonight is because my daughter is experiencing a lot of problems, and she refuses to go seek help. And she's got a lot of issues with her that she's having trouble sleeping. You know, she has some of my personality, which is not a good thing at times. And so I wanted to see, like, I see the negative things that you're saying about, and I insist on trying to. She's seen a doctor at SHOP, and the doctor said something that set her off, so she'll never see another psychiatrist or psychologist in her life because of what that doctor said to her. And I really wanted to bring her tonight, but she's working.
Do you have any business cards with you?
I do.
Let me just add something quick. This recording will be online, so she can see that, and if you have a business card, she just might say, you know, maybe I want to just listen to this one, you know?
Yeah, and just also to keep in mind that every practitioner is different, and especially with psychology, there has to be a goodness of fit. And I often say with psychology in particular, and psychiatrists also, it's okay to shop around. And a good psychologist will be okay with that too, because you're really opening up your life to this person. And that your psychologist, whoever it will be, will know very intimate details about you. And you need to match. And if you don't match, that's okay, and the psychologist will be okay with that too. It's okay to go shopping and find someone that matches you. It's okay to do, like I do more short-term work. Psychology now is not like long-term psychoanalysis where you're laying on a couch and hanging out there for 10 years. It doesn't look like that anymore. It's active, it's work, it's doing things, it's problem solving, it's very forward-moving. There's a lot of stereotypes and things about it, but encourage her to say if you don't like one, that's okay. Maybe you weren't a good match. There might be someone else out there that'll be better.
I actually told her that I'll go to the doctor too. To give her that reinforcement. I'll go to the doctor too, sure, because guess what? and the same thing, getting back to being a positive person, is I tell people, if you're having a negative thought, the problem is we feel that you burden, so one of the natural feelings is you feel you're burdening the people you're telling.
Yeah.
So you tend to hold it in. And I keep on telling the people, even if it's your priest, your clergy, or go seek professional help. Because you might be able to tell these people whatever you wish to tell, and there's no burden of the fact that you're telling your family members or telling your close friends. It just takes that pressure off you. And I keep on trying to tell my daughter this, and she just won't get it.
Holly, where is your practice that you're just starting up?
Right now I'm located up in Lawrenceville, and I'm...
It's easy enough. I live in
and
Somerton.
I'm between locations down here. But I'll be settled in Philly soon too.
Yeah, I live in Somerton, so it's...
Okay.
So
I'll give you my card.
it's not bad to get
And
this
if she's
one.
interested, again, it's about trying out new people and about changing up. If you saw a male see a female, if you saw a female see a male, so some young, old, switching it up, different backgrounds, different races, different everything, and seeing where you fit is perfectly okay. It's about finding someone that you trust. Above all things, this is about trust because it's a process. This person is walking with you hand in hand through the toughest thoughts that you're ever going to have. And that person holding your hand needs to be someone that you know is never going to let go. And that's what I say to my patients, I'm never going to let go. So you need to trust that. And they need to know that that's okay.
I think you'd have a unique position to work with somebody like that, given your background.
Yeah, I think I can just say, no offense to my husband, I can tell him just about everything, but there are things I can say to my therapist that I will not even say to him.
Just different
And we've
relationship.
been married 36 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've been together forever. So, but there are things that I can go to my therapist with that I cannot go to him with.
It's a very unique space.
Right.
It's a unique relationship.
Anybody else have any other questions before we wrap it up? Holly, you're amazing.
Thank you so
And
much.
I'm really very impressed with how you're taking your life experience and turning it into a career which would be very unique. Given that background and the education, I wish you all the best of luck. We always
Thank you.
give our speakers a little gift, and it's usually a bunch of inspirational stuff, but I didn't do that for you because I didn't think you needed it. But rather it's the great moments in life. It's more about capturing those special moments. Holly, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.